Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very special knife overview and presentation to share with you guys. I want to be very clear, this is not a review, more of a show and tell. This is a heavily modified Hinderer XM-18 that has been customized by multiple people in the knife community. The point of this video is to, of course, showcase this knife and the beautiful work that's been done to it, but at the same time expose or give more exposure to some people in this community who do truly incredible work. Let me be clear, the reason I'm wearing gloves is not because this, of course, is delicate. My fingerprints alone could turn this delicate beauty into dust. It's like the Mona Lisa. No, I don't know. Some people, I think, automatically think that. The reason I'm wearing gloves is so that I don't put fingerprints on it. A lot of these surfaces are mirror polished, obviously, and it's been done by hand, and I want to properly showcase that, so I don't want to put fingerprints on it. This is, the base of this knife is a Hinderer XM-18 3.5 inch. It actually was originally the DLT Trading exclusive, Fullard Spear non-flipper. There's a lot of words in that. I'm actually going to show you what the base model of this looks like because I own it. I actually named it, the perfect XM-18. It's my favorite XM-18. And my buddy Scott, this gentleman here, this is the gentleman who owns the knife. Give him a follow on Instagram at Sierra_bound. His collection on its own is reason enough to follow him. Seriously, he has one of the most amazing collections I've ever seen. He and I, sort of became friends through Instagram and YouTube, and he agrees with me on, at least as far as I can tell, on this version of the XM-18 specifically being like the ultimate version. And you can go back and watch my reasoning on this. I've got a playlist called Hinderer Knives where I talk about this one being my favorite. And so he had an absolutely crazy one built. And as you could imagine, a lot of money went into it. I think, what I always hear people say is, why would you spend so much money on an object that has a simple, there's a simple design philosophy behind it. It's supposed to just be it's supposed to be a tool. You can buy a super inexpensive version of it. I get it. I used to think like that too. I used to say the exact same thing. You spend enough time in this knife world, and let me tell you, it will slowly shape you. It will slowly change your mind, slowly but inevitably. And just remember, you clicked on this video and you knew exactly what it was because of the thumbnail, right? So at least some part of your subconscious, especially if you make it all the way to the comment section to leave a comment like that, that guarantees that at least some part of your subconscious takes interest in it, right? And that little tiny seed will grow and blossom, as it did to me. Furthermore, people who buy things like this, not people who comment on them, people who actually buy things like this, I can promise you are much less concerned with its utilitarian capabilities and much more concerned with the story behind it, right? The people behind it, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. And, at this point, this knife has as much work in it as, a custom knife that is made all by one person. There's an enormous amount of work in this knife, and I think the end product is truly incredible. If you don't know, I'll take a quick measurement of this one. If you're not familiar with Hinderer knives, the base versions of these knives do not come full titanium. You got to buy those tie scales. They are, in this case, this one is a factory scale. This one was actually made by somebody else. Base version of the XM-18 3.5 inches, $425. To get a titanium scale, we'll bump it up to $625. So if you can imagine, right, if this one is $625, we'll get this out of the way. This guy is a lot more expensive, right? The custom knife world, or the customized knife world, right? This end of the enthusiast knife world has no shortage of ultra expensive knives, and it has been here for a very long time. If you're still interested, I'm going to talk about this here a little bit, but we'll do a quick measurement. That's all we're going to do for specs. If you want more details on the XM-18 3.5 inch, you can check out my original reviews, because I have a lot of them. 8.25 inches overall. The blade, I'm not going to get close to it for obvious reasons. 3.5 inches, and the cutting edge is coming in at about 3 1/8. Scott probably does not plan to use this knife, and I completely understand. You know, Scott's like me, he's a collector. This, the collection end of this hobby really does grab a hold of you really hard. Somehow, knife modders, by the way, let's go over the people who are involved with this. So the scale, I've actually had a scale done by this gentleman, and his work is incredible. This is it's like a koi pattern zircotai scale. So if you don't know, this is titanium Damascus. We have different compositions of titanium layered with zirconium. And they, because the compositions of titanium are slightly different, they anodize at different rates. So that's what you're getting. That's what you're seeing there in the colors, right? These are actual layers. This is not just paint. It's not somebody doodling on the surface, right? As you would see in an actual gas station knife, which, by the way, I always say this, right? Because the typical thing that we get is that looks like a gas station knife. You're almost there. You're so close. You've actually got it backwards. Gas station knives look like these knives. Can you imagine a world where the gas station knives were original and the custom stuff was copying the gas station stuff? It's backwards. Stuff like this, and the exotic appearance has existed long before, you know, sort of the gas station knife market started to evolve and look like some of that crazier stuff. They just, gas station knives look like CSGO knives. That's what they accomplished was the CSGO stuff, right? The stuff that attracts children. This is more of the aesthetic that's been, a part of the custom knife community, and not perfectly consistently, but this aesthetic has been part of the custom knife enthusiast community for way longer, right? But anyways, the scale was done by @Barry Knives, very beautiful. The clip was done by @Johnny_T_knives, and this is all on Instagram, by the way. And then the blade, frame, and hardware were all mirror polished by @Knife Modders, and that was specifically done by Lindy. I think you guys are probably, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you're probably familiar with Lindy. If you're not, I actually, after seeing this thing, I am extremely interested in having some stuff done by them. I could not be more impressed with this. I imagine they also anodized the frame. That is just absolutely beautiful. We'll take a look here real quick. It's very difficult to flip. This actually, this knife actually has better action than mine. The action on this is unbelievable, and I can only imagine it's due to all of the mirror polishing. But they managed to keep the lockout and solidity on this complete, right? The lockup percentage, all of that. Nothing has been altered. So it's very carefully done, except for it's just the appearance of it, right? There is a point, if you're wondering, like, what's the point of making a blade so shiny? All it's going to do is scratch up. Well, it depends on what you're cutting, right? If you cut something that is harder than the surface of the blade, then yes. But if you cut something that's not as hard, then no. A mirror polish does actually add utility. In this case, it's probably pointless to talk about it because it won't be used. But mirror polish blades are not like a new thing, right? That's something that's been done for quite a while because it increases corrosion resistance for that specific composition, right? Let's say you have an M390 blade, which, by the way, that's what this is. You have an M390 blade that is bead blasted versus an M390 blade that is mirror polished. Both of them have the same chromium content, right? Both of them on a graph, it'll be like, yeah, M390 by itself is this level of corrosion resistance, right? The finish, though, will allow moisture to be trapped more readily if it is a finish that does that, like bead blasting, right? So a bead blasted M390 blade will actually corrode faster than a mirror polished M390 blade. The higher the polish, right, the lower the potential for moisture to be trapped on the surface, the better it's going to be at corrosion resistance, right? On top of that, it does decrease drag, right? So if you're comparing apples to apples, the same blade, same geometry, one with a real slick, smooth surface like a mirror polished blade versus, again, something like a bead blasted or especially like a DLC or PVD blade, that's going to increase drag and slow you down a little bit. Are those elements alone making this knife more valuable? No. Again, it's much more about the work that went into it. To an enthusiast, somebody who actually buys and collects this stuff, it's much more about the fact that it came to be, that it is something that has the potential to exist and then does exist in the form of a knife that they already appreciate, right? That is the draw to it. That, on top of that, especially, when you get into this territory, having something, even if it was not originally done by, in this case, Rick Hinderer, having something that just does not exist hardly anywhere else in the knife world and is just interesting for that fact, there's some pride of ownership there, right? But, the joy, that Scott gets out of it, that's the main purpose. To any knife collector, knife enthusiast, the one thing that matters the most is how much joy they get out of it and the other people who actually like it, right? So, that's the thing. It's not going to be an aesthetically pleasing to everybody. There's going to be people who go, oh, I like the way that yours looks better. In some ways, so do I. But then in other ways, I like how this looks way better, right? There's different elements of this to appreciate. I am a huge fan of Zircotite. That's one of my new favorite exotic materials. I went a long time not liking color at all in knives. I was, like the people who are going to be like, I don't like the colorful. It makes it not look serious, right? Serious knives can only be black, gray, maybe OD green, and maybe coyote. And also they can be black because tactical and knives have to be serious and I won't accept it any other way. I used to be like that too. And then I changed my mind because I'm a human being and, any time spent within a specific community, you're likely to start to fold, right? That's just what happens. You start getting exposed to more and more things, and eventually all the planets align, and you find something that you like in terms of the aesthetic, or the silhouette, and it's combined with materials that you didn't used to like, but now you kind of like them because it's on a knife that you kind of like, right? And then you start to pay attention to it, what it is, how it's made, what it's made out of, and then you slowly reel yourself in, right? It's not me who sells it. It's usually you as the individual who just keeps going through the Rolodex of life until you get 777s on something that you really like, right? That'll stick with you. My voice in your head will stick with you. And the moment that happens, you go, oh yeah, that one guy that I thought was really annoying on YouTube, he did say this would happen. Yeah, it does happen. This mirror polish is one of the most beautiful. I'm going to use the thumb stud from here on out. This is one of the most incredible mirror polished blades that I have ever seen. We have a very simple drop point blade with that beautiful fuller in it. Every last little bit of this knife has been mirror polished except for the inside of the fuller, which I actually like. I think it looks cool that everything is reflecting around that fuller. It just looks awesome. On top of that, they have mirror polished the hardware, and I think they actually domed it, or maybe that's just a product of the process. Same with the screws. All of the individual pieces of hardware, the standoffs, all of that, the Chicago ends, they've all been mirror polished. This side back here, I don't typically see titanium mirror polish this way. It's just absolutely stunning, and that blue in there really looks spectacular as well. The pocket clip, while it isn't, I'm like one of those people who really likes, as simple as the Hinderer clip is the standard one, I'm somebody who really likes the standard XM-18 clip. So this is obviously a major departure, but it's also a fully milled Zircotite clip, and it is a better clip far and away than the original. I mean, it's like functionally, it's still going to carry right about at the same point, but it is contoured and it has that big spoon head at the edge, but it's straight, right? So you don't have that swoop going into your palm, but you still have that rise underneath. So if he so chose to, put this in his pocket and remove it repeatedly and use it and carry it, right? Then it would be massively convenient. It's just a really, really well-designed clip, but I think more importantly, the Zircotite on this clip just looks spectacular, and of course matches the front outside of the texturing. I'm not the biggest fan of the koi pattern versus other patterns, but I do like a consistent pattern, and this looks awesome. I love that, when it's bent at a certain angle, all of the lines in between the scales there sort of illuminate around the darker areas where the light's not reflecting as much, and then you turn it and you get more of the detail in the scales. I really like that. They obviously had to put a new edge on this thing, and boy did they do an excellent job. I believe that was most likely also knife modders. It's just perfect. And it feels it's catching the fibers of the glove. It feels way sharper than the factory edge by Hinderer, which is not always the best edge. I mean, it'll slice and it'll cut, but it's not always like the absolute best edge. They also managed to keep the blade absolutely absolutely, look at this. Managed to keep it completely and totally centered without any blade. That's always my concern with sending off a knife to somebody who's going to modify it outside of, what it was originally, who originally did it, right? It used to be, it's like, I'm not going to trust anybody but the people at Hinderer Knives to make the knife. I wouldn't want to send it off because I'm afraid they're going to, some weird thing's going to be altered with the lockup geometry. It's going to have lock rock when it comes back, or it's going to be wiggly or whatever, or it's going to have detent lash. Little things like that after you spend enough money on something that it's intended to go in a collection and remain, if you're going to take it out and beat the crap out of it, then it doesn't really matter, right? Most people who are going to have this type of work done on this type of knife, expect everything to remain perfect. It is what it is, right? And if this is confusing to you, if you're like, I'm still not sold on this, I still really feel compelled to leave an aggressive comment and inform all of these silly knife enthusiasts that this thing has become, it has undone its original purpose and is therefore no longer a tool and just a silly work of art, right? Do you go around and yell at car enthusiasts, right? People who collect exotic cars, do you yell at them for not racing them? I understand you're going to throw this, well, you got to drive it. At least you do have to drive those at least to maintain their condition. No. Let's do apples to apples, right? Somebody who collects exotic and sometimes, old or just rare in general race cars. Do you go around, not that you have the opportunity, but would you go around yelling at them for not taking them out and racing them? I'll go ahead and answer for you. No, you wouldn't. It is exactly the same thing. I know I'm going to get challenged in the comments section because that specific analogy has not been thrown at some people, and I'm going to get a lot of, right? Nah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just more frustrating when it is a knife for some reason. But there are plenty of examples of this exact same type of thing. People become interested in collecting these things for one reason or another, for themselves, just for self-satisfaction, right? Pride of ownership. For some people, it is absolutely an investment thing. And if you didn't know that about knives, you have no idea. The underworld of, buying, selling, and trading knives like this and buying knives as investments. Oh yeah, it definitely exists. So a lot of really, really rare stuff ends up being worth not just double or triple, but quadruple what it originally went for, right? That's just the nature of the beast. Not necessarily in this case. This is really just Scott creating something absolutely wonderful and beautiful for himself, or having it created for him. What I think is really cool is they went ahead and did like the insides in here. All of the, the surfaces that you're actually going to see, they're all done there. Really stunning. I'm just so impressed as somebody who, I'm trying to keep as many of these little fibers off the blade as I can. For somebody, I go over things with a magnifying glass, especially Hinderer knives. And I just really expected, if you were to tell me like, hey, I got this XM-18 and it's been like completely customized, right? From what I've experienced in the past is what that means is either, you yourself customized it, or you sent it off to somebody that nobody really knows, and then they did, they customized it, but they kind of undid some. Basically what I'm saying is up to this point, I didn't really trust that anybody doing this type of work would actually manage to keep the main base form of the knife functioning the way that it should. Oftentimes, this level of customization will alter the knife in a way that makes it not quite as good as it was originally in terms of functionality, but this, they did it. If I ever have a knife customized, I can tell you, if I have a scale made, yeah, I've had Barry Knives make me a scale. He made my first titanium scale for the XM-24, and it was wonderful. Clips, definitely would look into Johnny T. I think that's a beautiful clip. Lots of people making clips out there, but this is absolutely wonderful, and it fits perfectly. And then I think mainly knife modders. I think this is really a spectacular example of what they're capable of. And they have plenty of other examples on their Instagram of, what they're capable of doing. But I think, this is something that's truly impressive and is really, I've actually already inquired and said like, hey, what are we looking at here? It is not a simple thing to mirror polish an M390 blade. There are going to be people going, oh, I did that in my garage with I did it on an old K-bar. Well, number one, you probably didn't achieve this, right? You probably made it really shiny, right? But I'm not going to believe that somebody just, you just did that in your garage and it was just nothing, right? It just didn't take a lot of time. I'm just not going to believe that, right? And I'm not trying to come down on anybody, but mirror polishing a blade truly and leaving absolutely nothing, no marks in there whatsoever. It's a true high definition mirror polish, right? Doing that is going to take some work. On top of that, it's doing it on M390 is going to take some work, right? That's going to be different than, you know, doing it on a on a composition that more readily takes a polish, right? There's a reason that companies like Damasteel offer variances of, like, for example, Damacore. Their performance Damacore has a Vanax core, which performs very, very well, but does not take a mirror polish very easily. And then they have Damacore that has an RWL34 core, which still has really, really good performance, but sometimes more importantly, depending on the maker and the customer, it takes a mirror edge much easier, right? I'm sorry, not a mirror edge, but a mirror polish much easier, right? So it depends on what the customer wants. But yeah, different compositions will take, a finish easier or harder. It just depends on what it is, right? Now, I'm not a knife maker. I don't modify knives. I'm not a metallurgist. I don't make knives. I'm literally just a person who has handled a lot of final products and is able to critique. I have over 3,000 uploads. I have legitimately handled an absolutely crap load of knives, right? Varying, in price from about $20 up to, $6,000 or $7,000, right? Knives definitely get more expensive than that. But I've, compared and contrasted a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of varying levels of polishes, right? This is an incredibly well done mirror polish as far as other things that I've handled. It's really, really impressive. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this. I really just wanted to share it with you, share my thoughts and talk for 20 minutes as I usually do. This will be going back to Scott. It is absolutely not mine to keep. I'm very much ready to give it back to him because it's kind of scary having it here with me. So anyway, Scott, thanks so much for loaning this to me so that I can share it with everybody. Please make sure to follow him at Sierra_bound. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.